Greetings and salutations, FLGers. I am FLGchilly. I am the founding proud member of not MLG, but Fat Lazy Gaming. Just because you're not good at something doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And I'm going to try a little bit of a let's play here. Now, this has been tried many times, and every time I've had issues with the PC dying, the software not working, with losing saves. It seems like a bit of a cursed project, but it's a project close to my heart. I'm going to be doing a let's play and a breakdown of one of my all-time favourite games called Might and Magic 7. It was made in 1999. The graphics are pretty terrible, but I absolutely adore this game. There's so many in-jokes, so many brilliant things about it, a lot of little hidden gems, and just generally it's really fun. It's a D&D style game, Dungeons & Dragons. It follows a dice roll system, but it's all done with internal calculations. You choose your party, you go on an epic adventure, starts out small scale, develops bigger, very Final Fantasy-esque in that type of story. It's a classic fantasy arc. There's a lot of freedom in the game as well in the way you want to go. So, a couple of technical things before we get started. As you can see here, I'm using OBS, Open Broadcast Software, version 20.0.1, 64-bit Windows run. My system isn't amazing, but it runs this no problem thanks to GOG, which is good old games. Start up the Galaxy app here. GOG is DRM-free software, so you can get a lot of games, and once you've bought them, anyone can download them if they have your account access, so pretty damn decent. So I've got a few games here, bits and pieces, some proper old classic ones. Yes, Disney's Aladdin is the SNES version. Settlers 3, but at the moment we're going to be focusing on Might and Magic 7. So, without further ado, let's get this started. But I'm going to be skipping cutscenes, mainly because I've seen them loads of times before. If you want to watch the cutscenes, they're easy to find on YouTube. This is going to be just a bit by bit, a few quests at a time, and today's video is going to be on character creation. Now, I will warn you, when the game starts, it tends to start very loud. So I've got the volumes down to try and compensate this.
3DO.
So hopefully the volumes won't be completely messed up. Now, here we go. We're going straight into a new game. Now, the party bit here for building party can be a little bit daunting at times, especially for a new player. I'll just hit clear there. They give you a suggested party with suggested stats. So I'll do a quick breakdown on the classes, the stats, the skills, and generally what I would suggest. I'm going to be going for a reasonably generic party just to show you how simple it is to run through things. Because some people do speedruns, some people do level 1 character speedruns, some people do all melee parties, all magic parties, all one class parties. There's loads of challenges available. Let's say from 1999 this game has been a bit of a cult classic. So I'm just trying to share some of my obsession with it with you guys so that you can maybe appreciate it. But to start off, as you can see here, the classes. You have the knight, and if you right click over them, you can see it breaks down what they do. It gives you a rough idea of what they are. Knights, unsurprisingly, is your fighter type character, your big tank, melee weapons. They get access to every melee weapon, and they're pretty highly skilled in it. They get skills that improve their ability to take damage, to mitigate it. So you can have sword and shield type warrior, you can have a great weapon wielding nut job, you can have 2 weapons. There's a lot of flexibility in the class type, but generally they're there as your tank. And the classes get promoted as they go. There are 2 promotions. First promotional quest can be done basically at any point once you get through the tutorial-y area. And for the knights, they basically get access to a higher level of all their basic skills. Nothing really much changes. They don't get anything overly new. They are pretty much just They do some repairing, and it's all physical skills. There's nothing complicated about them. They're a very, very simple class, but they're always one that's worthwhile having, just due to the sheer amount of hit points and damage. So the second advancement comes later on in the story. There's a massive bit of plot, and you basically choose whether you're going to be good or evil. After that, it depends on which advancement you get. As you can see, you start with 2 automatically determined skills. You don't get a choice in these. These are just what they're given. You then have 2 more available skills, and you can see the list here of what they are. Now, as I get access to all melee weapons, I could load up on them here. There's nothing wrong with that, because skills can get expensive. However, there are some that are better than others. I mean, say for example, if I right click over the mace, it tells you what the mace is. But if I were to choose it, right clicking on it shows you how good I can get with it. So a normal, which is the standard knight, it's between 1 to 4 skill levels with no advancement. The amount of skill you have, so 1 point, 2 point, etc., gets added immediately just to your bonus of attack. At expert, which is reached at rank 4, you then go and pay a lot of gold and you get expert level. Your skills added to attack bonus and your skills added to attack damage, so you just become better all round with it. At master level, rank 7 generally needs an advancement to get for a lot of classes. You get a chance to stun equal to your skill, so there's a percentage based chance. Stunning mobs means that they don't hit you as often. Pretty handy. But you see there, immediately, you're automatically better with the sword, because you can grandmaster it. But the reason that's yellow is because you need an advancement before you can do that. So you can't get it as a knight, but I believe second class champion or crusader, and you can then. But as you can see as well, permits the use of the sword in the left hand, so you can have one weapon in your right hand and then a sword in your left hand. Pretty tasty. Other skills here as well, some pretty handy. Shield, well, you wield the shield. You get bonuses to reducing damage and protection against certain things. Bodybuilding is just straight up, you get extra hit points based on your skill. If you're a tank, bit of a no-brainer. Extra hit points, dead less. Brilliant. Arms Master reduces the recovery time of all your weapons, so you can attack quicker with melee weapons. You get bonuses to attack, you get bonuses to damage, and then at Grandmaster you see double all previous bonuses, which makes them a monster. The bow, stock ranged weapon. As you can see, you can only get to expert with it. You can never get master or grandmaster. But at the start of the game, bow is, I would say, pretty much a necessity. I think all your characters should have at least base level bow as quickly as possible. Some can't start with it, some have to gain it through buying it. But it's a bit of a no-brainer. You want that because you're squishy to start with, you'll get swarmed easily by mobs, and you'll die horribly. But that's enough about the skills. The next class, Paladin. Pretty similar to the tank, or to the knight. They can tank as well. Generally they're best with a mace in one hand, a shield in the other. They get access to some of the more spirit-based magics, so being able to give yourself blessings to increase damage, being able to cure certain ailments like fear, curing weakness, a secondary healer. So they're not as well versed in melee as the knight is, but they're still a pretty powerful force for combat. And again, they make a pretty solid tank, and they can even make a pretty solid second damage dealer. They're more of a jack of all trades than the knight is because they get access to some of the clerical spells, but they're not as good at either element. Very fun class though, and my favourite thing about them, once you get Grandmaster in the mace, you can paralyse an enemy, and that is more effective than stun because it stops them attacking or doing anything completely for a lot of rounds. Against some really powerful enemies like dragons that you'll meet later on, paralysing them is a phenomenal tactic. So again, another good starting class that can be an excellent tank and even a good damage dealer. The third, I suppose, tank class would be the monk. Monks have a big hit point pool. They absorb a lot of damage, but they don't get much in the way of armour. They can't get access to plate armour, they can't get access to mail armour, they can get access to leather armour, but they're generally best with no armour. They dodge and they punch. They don't use weapons, although they can use a bow. But melee weapons, generally again, you can give them a staff, and once you've reached Grandmaster in your skills, you can get bonuses from it. But generally, you're going in there unarmed, you're ducking, diving, brawling, avoid some big hits, tank the rest. They get access to some of the clerical skills as well, which can be quite useful. And again, they can be a good tank. To start off with, they'll be a little bit squishier than your other ones because they don't have the high armour class to rely on the same that others do. But that shouldn't discourage you, because they can still be a huge amount of fun. Get some points stacked into speed, might and endurance, and you've got somebody that really hurts in the long run. When you're dodging, you get a huge amount of armour class bonus from it as you get the skills in it, but to start off with you end up quite weak. But a worthwhile tank, I would say. I find them a lot of fun, and I might actually include one in my party this time. Next we'll move on to damage and utility classes. So your damage utility is, you have classes like the Archer for damage and utility. The Archer is, they get a little bit from the elemental skills. They can't get light and dark magic, which is your big in-game spells. But they get access to elemental magic, which can be useful. Little bits of buffs here and there, but I wouldn't use one as your primary spellcaster unless you're challenging yourself. They are phenomenal with the bow, and later on you really start to notice this as your other characters are pinging and doing a little bit of damage here and there. These guys are absolutely ruining people from a huge distance. A full archer party can take down the game. It's challenging at certain points, but when you reach a magic immune monster, you've got the physical damage from your arrows. When you reach a physical immune, you can enchant your weapons. Bingo, fire damage on your arrows. So it is possible, but the lack of healing can make them a struggle. But they're a great support character. They can spot things from afar with the perception skill. Excuse me, yawning. But you can spot things from afar, as you can see here, and that will allow you to avoid traps and notice extra treasures. Secret doors, that kind of things. Perception is one of those skills that's quite underrated, but phenomenal. Can be really, really useful. Although the avoiding traps is only for that character. So he can duck out the way of an exploding trap. Unfortunately, sometimes the other guys won't, and they'll take the damage. But it's still worthwhile having, and it can be really, really good. And as you can see, with the right promotions, they can get up to Master. Mastery in air magic is, I would say, necessity for completing the game, because you get spells Invisibility and Fly. Later on, with the abundance of incredibly tough enemies, that just makes it easier to cross maps. And say Mastery in Water Walking is also one of those. Mastery in Water Magic is also a necessity, because early on you get Water Walking, meaning you can walk across water without drowning. Pretty handy. But you also get a spell called Lloyd's Beacon, which allows you to teleport around the place. Teleporting from town to town, again, makes the game so much better at the end, rather than having to wait 2 or 3 days at a stable master in the hope that they've got the right destination in their little pathway. So again, Archer, good for damage, good support. The next one in this, I'd say, subclass would be the Thief. Thief's pretty awesome with the dagger. They get high critical damage, so they have a chance to double and triple their damage quite quickly. They're good for chunking up speed. Putting some points in might and speed, and you'll notice things start falling over pretty quick when they get close. I wouldn't use them as a tank. They don't have either the dodging or the mitigation. They don't have access to that sort of thing. Late game, they get access to very early elemental magic, but again, it's not something you're going to use. By that point, you'll have a much more developed elemental magic user, and they're going to do a lot of things with it. So the Thief is really there just for up close smash. It'll do huge damage in a short amount of time. It'll attack generally more frequently than most of your other classes, because daggers have a very, very quick recovery. If you're into stealing, you can actually pickpocket and steal stuff from shops. If you get caught, as it says there, you will get fined. You can get thrown in jail. Shops will stop selling to you completely until you go and pay your fine or do your time in prison. I don't tend to bother with stealing, because you can't sell on stuff that you've stolen. So making money later on, once you upgrade your gear, is harder because you just have to chuck it away. However, the real reason for having a Thief with you is this right here. Disarm Trap. Others can gain a Disarm Trap skill, but no one's nearly as good as a Thief with it. And later on in the game, there are some traps that will go off, and they'll one-shot your party. And that's why saving often is a major thing, because there are times that you click on the chest, and maybe a character with a good enough perception will duck out of the way, but the rest of your party, especially the low hit point ones like sorcerers, will get completely one-shot. And it costs a lot to res them, or you have to be high enough level to get the right spells to res. And it's quite a hindrance at times. So having someone that you know can just walk up to a chest, click, job done, is fantastic. With perception as well, they can be quite useful, because again, they don't get Grand Master, but generally Master is good enough to notice most things. That coupled with your Disarm Trap means they're going to avoid, I would say, early game about 70% of traps. So it makes them a phenomenal character to have. They get little bits of other stuff here and there. Merchant skill basically just reduces the cost of selling reduces the penalty for selling items, and reduces the cost in shops of items. They can be a good one if you don't have a cleric, but generally they're best focused on as damage class and anti-trap. I think Ranger would be the next, I would say, is a support class. Now these guys really are the jack of all trades, master of none. They can get access to clerical magic, they can get access to elemental magic, they can get access to a huge range of melee weapons, the bow, a lot of skills as well. They can be reasonably tanky, but I personally would think that you're better off going for a tank class if you want a tank. All ranger parties are quite viable, again because you can have one that focuses on buffing, one that focuses on healing, one that focuses on a couple of elemental skills, and another one that focuses on the other elemental skills. Spread your skills out, and that way you don't have to skill dump into one character. But they don't get overly high with most skills. So for example, Disarm Trap, you can see they can only get to Expert in it. Now, that's good, but it's not great. Dodging, again, Expert. Identify Monster, now this I believe is their shining area. I don't have much of a use for Identify Monster. There are some people that have done this, and they'll Grandmaster a character purely so they can go back and identify every type of monster there is. I mean, learning what monster weaknesses are can be handy. You can learn their armor class, their hit points, what type of spells they can cast, the resistances of the monsters, that kind of stuff. So you know what you're facing then. You know that facing that monster there, it's immune to my physical, but I can hurt it with this type of magic. Can be useful, but I never really bother with it myself. And once again, this is all just my opinions. There are other people that are far more knowledgeable than me about the game, and there are plenty of other resources, and I'll be putting some resources in the YouTube description for people to go to, because this is where I learned a lot of my stuff. But that largely sums up the Ranger. Bit of everything, very broad skill set, can be quite a fun class really, because they've got that little bit of everything, but at the end of the game, I consider them a bit less useful, because they just don't have the focus in an area that other ones do. Now, we'll move on to the last couple, which are magic users. Now, Sorcerer is utility and damage. If they get hit, they get hurt. They'll be knocked over by a stiff breeze. They're really not durable at all, and it's hard to get a durable Sorcerer. They just don't get much benefit from hit points. Their endurance is... Normally endurance gives 2 hit points, but for example, a knight will gain a bigger bonus per point of endurance to hit points than a sorcerer will by a significant amount. So they're never going to be that good in combat. Their melee is pretty pitiful. They don't get access to a lot of weapons, they don't get access to a lot of armour. Leather is the best they're going to get. However, the access to the different schools of magic makes them, again, I would say irreplaceable. They're invaluable in a team. Simple things like the spell Wizard Eye, which as it levels up will show you enemies on the map. It will show you hostiles and friendlies. It can start to show you treasures on the map. It's one of those spells that you don't really think about too much. You've just always got it active, and the only time you notice how useful it is when you don't have it. Torchlight, being able to see in the dark when you're walking around caves. Again, brilliant. And then as we get later on, jump, fly, invisibility, teleportation, and some incredibly high damage spells. End game as well, they can gain dark magic if you go evil. Dark magic has some of the most incredibly crippling debuff spells. Shrinking enemies, healing you whenever you hit them, causing them damage whenever they hit you. It's an incredibly potent spell set. So I can't recommend Sorcerer enough. They are so squishy, but it's the veritable glass cannon. Next, we have the Cleric. Cleric is exactly what you'd expect. They are your healer. They can Grandmaster in light magic if you're good. If you're evil, not so much. But if you're good, they'll get the light magic, but they also get Grandmaster in body, spirit and mind. Early on, these might not seem that great. You'll stick to generally body magic just for the heal. But later on, cure paralysis, cure fear, cure weakness, cure insanity, and eventually even like protection against magic, to cure against eradication, which is as bad as it sounds. Remove your character from the game until you can get it healed. Some of the later enemies do this kind of stuff, and having a cleric with you to be able to go, boom, there you go, you're healed, is amazing, rather than having a character completely neutralised until you can get out the dungeon and get to a town. They are the bane of undead with things like Turn Undead. When you get swamped by a horde of zombies or skeletons, hit it, they run away. Gives you time to regroup, heal up, attack back. Again, pretty much an invaluable class, because they become so potent for keeping your party alive. They're not a major slouch in combat either. The mace, again, mastery, so it's still that chance to stun, which is handy, and they can get high in chain armor. So again, they're a little bit more durable than other classes. They benefit reasonably well from hit points, not up to the level of a tank, say, but you'll tend to find they're probably going to be your second or third most durable in the party, depending on who your damage dealer is. I've even seen runs where a cleric is the main tank and still works quite well. Takes a bit more focus to get the hit points up, but it can work reasonably well. Again, it's kind of a no-brainer for me to have one in the party. You're going to really gimp your party if you don't take one. That is, unless, of course, you're running a druid. Might Magic 6 druids were ridiculously broken. They were super powerful. And they got hit quite hard in Might Magic 7, because I think the developers decided we don't want the same triple druid and sorcerer parties running around. So they decided to hit them quite hard with a nerf bat. As a result, druids are a little bit weak in this. But they can still be a really useful class. Druids can gain quite a high level in every single school of magic. So here, they can get up to expert to start with. Master after the first promotion. They can never grandmaster in the schools. But that's not such a big deal, as mastery will get you most of the spells that you need anyway. They can heal and damage. The only thing is they tend to be a skill point dump, because they have such a wide range of magic skills that you generally want them to be both damage and healer. They're a great secondary character to take if you have a primary of another type. Hey, they're a great one to take if you've got a primary of both types of magic. It leans more to a magic heavy party. They're slightly more durable than the sorcerer, but not really by much. They might be able to fight their way out of a wet paper bag and then give the sorcerer a hand, but that's about all you can expect from them. But they also gain the best alchemy skills in the game. Alchemy allows you to make potions. Potions have varying effects, from giving you hit points back, giving you magic points back, restoring status conditions. Potions can be a great way to offset if you're running no casters or if you just want that security. They can cure status conditions, and eventually the top end potions will give you temporary buffs to your stats and permanent buffs to your stats. The druid's the only one that can grandmaster, which allows you to make those permanent buff potions. It's a lot of investment to get that. Sometimes you can get lucky and find them in treasures, find them in shops. But having that grand mastery for black potions is really, really helpful at times, because you can offset a lot of your weaknesses with them. But in general, I don't suggest a druid for a starter party just purely from the standpoint of the amount of investment it takes. So I've rambled on quite a bit now about all of this stuff. I've overloaded you with information, so let's go for a basic party here. As you can see, unintentionally but brilliantly, I now have all the different races here because I haven't changed them. Might Magic 7 has one of my favourite things in it. There is racial prejudice in the game. So, for example, goblins, who are more like general fantasy orcs. Goblins don't like dwarfs, and they don't like elves. A goblin will be attacked more frequently by dwarfs and elves, you tend to find, than other classes will. So if you're in a goblin heavy area, your goblin won't get attacked as much. But if you're in a dwarf heavy area, your goblins and elves are likely going to get hit more often. The only ones that don't suffer from racial prejudice are humans. Humans will attack anyone equally, really, and will be attacked equally. So again, I tend to find they all have racial bonuses, so certain ones fall into certain categories just better. But first off, we're going to start off with, I think we'll just go for the knight. It's nice, it's simple, we get what we need from it. And race-wise, humans, goblins, and dwarfs make good knights. Yeah, I think we'll go for a dwarf tank.
Choose me.
Now you might be able to hear in the background the voice is changing as I'm scrolling through.
How about me?
This is quite important. The little arrow at the top allows you to change your portrait. There's 2 for each. And you can have male and female for all your different classes. For all your different races, sorry. The bottom arrow changes the voice. And I will say this, I've restarted games because I chose the wrong voice. And what might seem like quite a cutesy little voice to start with, gets infuriating later. So, choose your voices wisely.
Right here. Come on, pick me. Right here. Pick me. Choose me.
That's quite a knightly voice. Now, these are going after my typical gaming group. I'm going to steal the names and there. So we have Dora, the Dwarf Knight. We'll do his stats in a minute, because I'll break down what the stats do shortly. But next...
Don't leave, please.
How about me? Choose me. I'm your man.
Next, we're going to have Leggy, who's going to be a goblin, but he's going to be a goblin thief. Because disarm and trap, again, a no-brainer. Now, our third party member, we want a cleric. I think we're going to have a human cleric.
Choose me. What could go wrong?
And I can't type, so we'll just ignore that. We're going to have Catty as the human cleric. And finally,
Please.
How about me?
Pick me.
we're going to have an elven sorcerer.
Hey, righty.
How about me? I won't let you down. How about me? I can choose me.
You want to ride high?
Tally ho. I'm your man. Tally ho.
We'll
Choose me.
have that voice, and we're going to have Selphie, the elven sorcerer. Very, very standard party. But it should let everyone see what I'm trying to do with it as well. Next, you saw at the start I hit clear, which put 50 points in our bonus pool. That's so that we can pick and choose the stats as we want to buff these guys. But first off, we're going to start with Dora. He's going to be our tank. He starts with sword and leather armour. I'm giving him bow because bow is quite expensive. You give somebody this skill to start with, they start with that piece of equipment too. So he'll start with a basic bow, meaning I don't have to spend the cash at a trainer to learn the skill and then have to find or buy a bow. And next we'll give him... I think we'll go for bodybuilding to start with, because we want as tanky a tank as we can. Now you see here quite a mix of different stats. Some are high, some are low. Might, how hard you hit things. That's it. Now might starts at 14 for a dwarf, because it's one of their benefited stats. So as you see here, I take 1 point from the bonus pool, taking us down to 49 points, but I get 2 points in might. That's because it's a benefited stat. Maximum you can go to with a benefited stat is 30. So we'll set up to 30 just now. We'll probably do a little bit of a reshuffle after. Intellect. Intellect is spell points. And that's generally for the elemental schools. If you're a knight, you're not going to do it. But you notice there that the intellect, as it goes down, if I want to buff the intellect past normal, it's 1 point for 1. Because it's not a worry for dwarfs either way. Personality, how much people like you. It's kind of like a charisma stat. But it also affects your schools of self, so the clerical schools of magic for your mana. Again, we're not worried about that. We're just standing there and getting hit. Endurance. This is how tough your character is. Again, you'll see, this is a buffed stat. So we can go up to 30 with it, which will make him really strong. Skip down quickly to luck. Luck is curious. Luck gives you some magic resistance, and can sometimes help you avoid traps or just be, well, lucky with certain things. Luck's not a big deal. Yeah, luck can be handy later on, but it's generally a dump stat. You can ignore it. Now it leads us to the two lowest skills our knight has here, because he's a dwarf: accuracy and speed. Now you notice 7 points is quite low. And if you look at our bonus here, it costs me 2 points to go up by 1. So we're going to go up to 10, just because I find 10's a good kind of average point. I mean, we can't really afford to go much higher than that. Next we'll move on quickly to Leggy the Thief. Now as you can see here, if you've used your cunning deducement, might and speed are your buffed stats for a thief, as a for a goblin, but they're also beneficial as a thief. We'll drop the luck because again, there's ways to work on that. Now you want your thief to be pretty fast. We could go up to 30, but I'm just going to push it to 20 at the moment. Same with the might. We're going to drop intellect and personality, because even though the late game we'll get access to elemental spells, we're never really going to use them. Accuracy and endurance. As you can see here, the maximum you can go to on a non-buffed skill or stat is 25. But we're going to push to about 15. We want decent, but not amazing. Here again we have stealing and dagger, so immediately we'll take disarm trap, because that's, again, pretty much a no-brainer. And we're also going to take bow. Again, just purely because if we start with a bow, we don't have to buy one, we don't have to try and find one, we've just got that skill. His other skills, we can give him. Things like perception and the like, leather armor, we'll do that later. Next we have a cleric. Now as you can see, humans don't have any low stats, but neither do they have any high stats. They are your most balanced class. So we're going to start off by reducing intellect and luck, because we're not overly worried about them. What we want here is a highest start personality we can, because that's the healing hit points. Then we're going to put some points into endurance. Again, I ideally want to get to 15 endurance, which leaves us kind of low on everything else, but it's what we've got to do. Here it's a no-brainer taking mind magic and spirit magic, because the magics cost 1,000 gold each to learn, then you have to buy all the spells. This time we get to start with some spells, so plus there are other skills I'd like to give her, we have to take some like that. So again, not the greatest of stats, but we do what we can. Next, we're on to our squishy. So we might as well get rid of might, because if the sorcerer's in melee, we've kind of messed up a bit. Even in melee, the sorcerer's going to be using spells and stuff, so we're going to buff intellect as high as we can. Remove personality, because they don't use personality spells. Now this is where it gets difficult. Drop the speed down to 10, because again 10 is quite an average speed. This leaves us with accuracy is a buffed spell for an elf. Endurance, we want to get that to 10 if we can. So if we reduce that down by 1, we're almost there. Let's take a point off of someone else just to get that balance. Sorry Dora, you're losing a couple of points of might. But there we see now, with a little bit of a disparity with speed compared to everyone else. Let's put an extra point in Catty's endurance, because again we want our healer to survive. That's reasonably balanced stats. It's not great. I'm trying to offset the negatives rather than purely buff the positives. And again, getting to magic, you start off with fire magic and the staff. Air magic is a must, and I would say water magic. We can learn earth magic later when we've got some money. That's fine. So there we have our starting team. Not the most original party, but quite a classic. So once we've done that, we hit OK, and you're introduced to the starting video. Now, what this represents is you're a group of contestants. You've entered into this scavenger hunt. So you've been dropped off at this island called the Emerald Isle. As you can see, the amazing graphics are going to show you here. This is your party. And immediately, again, another quick point. If you look, when I go into the options, a couple of hints that I would suggest definitely is turning your turn rate to smooth. It doesn't feel jagged when you're moving left and right. Down the music volume a bit, because otherwise it can get quite deafening. Going to configure keyboard, you'll see I've got mine set to WSAD. I play MMOs generally, especially RPGs. WSAD is my default movement. By default, this game is set to movement via the arrow keys. I don't find that particularly comfortable, so I've recustomized a lot about it. Feel free to do it however you want, try the default if you want, but I customed this because I'm much more comfortable with it. Now, we've arrived on a boat, so the first thing you want to do, take your step off onto land, and you'll notice you're immediately accosted by Margaret the docent. She gives you a tour guide, so if you're brand new to the game, whenever you approach a house of any sort, if it's of note, she'll tell you what it is, what you can do there. Personally, I turn the tour off because that's what I'm here for and she annoys me. 2 steps forward, you see a campfire. Click on it, boom, you get 2 food. Food is used for resting, no food while you're resting, and eventually you go insane and your character starts suffering. But that's us done the basic character creation. Double click on this fella, you can see here's all your stats, here's all the different things. So at the moment, because you have no weapons or anything, you're at a -2 when you attack. You do 6 to 8 damage, and you're at a -2 to shoot. You get some resistances for your certain races and the like. And see, we started off with 80 hit points. That's pretty huge. Compare that to Selphie's monumental 18 hit points, and you can kind of see the difference. But if we go to inventory, you'll see that you have some leather armor. Adds +4 to your armor class. You have a sword. No bonus to attack, and it does 3d3 damage. D3 is a 3-sided dice, so it's a 6-sided dice with the results halved. So you roll 3d3, and that gives you your damage range. Crossbow, 4 2-sided dice. And a ring. Now you see there's nothing special about it. It gives you a value of 100 there. I'll give that to the cleric because she's going to learn merchant and she'll be able to sell stuff for us. There's no way you're getting 100 gold to start with for a ring like that. Again, brass ring, nothing special about it. Now here we have widow's wheat berries, so red berry. See the empty potion bottle here? If I pick this up and right click on the potion bottle,
Perfect mix.
we now have a level 1 cure wounds potion. We'll give that to our sorcerer because he's going to be the one that does the alchemy later on. The daggers, not that high in terms of damage. This is where it starts to get fun. Put the mace on Catty. A 3rd ring of no major value. But here's a skill book. Now, because we know the body magic, we can learn heal. So you pick it up,
Can't wait to cast it.
right click on the character, she learns it. Here we also have
Ah,
Bless
new spell. Great.
and Mind
Can't wait to
Blast.
cast it.
Not nearly as cool as it sounds, unfortunately. Finally, on to Selphie. We have a staff. He has the potion there because that's what he's getting. Here we go. Brass Ring of Earth Resistance. If I equip this, I get +4 to my Earth Resistance. I don't tend to bother with resistance as much. We'll get spells for that later on, so instead we give that to Catty and she can sell it because you saw the value there was 500. 5 times more valuable than a standard ring.
That'll be useful.
Firebolt,
I've learned it.
Feather Fall, and Poison Spray. Now the way I've got it set up, to set up my spells, click the character, bring up the spell book, see, Bless, Detect Life, sorry, shows me how many health points a target has. Bless increases my chance to hit. Remove Fear, Mind Blast, but this is the important bit, Cure Weakness, and Heal. So if I click on Heal once, it then says, do I want to cast it?
Okay.
I click Set Spell, and that means that's my quick spell. When I press the quick spell button, she automatically casts Heal. And for this guy, Torchlight, brilliant. Firebolt, brilliant. Feather Fall means that I can fall further without taking any damage. Wizard Eye, the spell I mentioned before. Awaken. If you're jumped while sleeping outside at night, Awaken will wake up the entire party rather than having to wait until they get hit before they wake up. And Poison Spray. Reasonable damage. Not amazing, but not bad. We're going to set Firebolt as the offensive spell, and we're going to cast Wizard Eye. You'll notice Wizard Eye is now active, because up in the top corner of the minimap here, you can see the eyeball is now open. You'll also see there is now green on the minimap, and that shows you that they are non-hostile people there. Now that's enough to start with, so what we're going to do here is we're going to save one, we're going to go for Let's Play 1, game is now saved, and that's it. Saving, you're going to want to do that a lot, because there are consequences to just about everything, and sometimes there are very, very bad consequences. So I think next video we're going to do the scavenger hunt, because that's where the story really begins, and I'll be able to give you a better idea on how the game actually works from there. But now that I've overloaded you with details, we now have our basic party, everybody's ready to go, everybody seems happy. We shall exit the game down. And with that, I shall say, for those of you who stuck with me through all of this, I say thank you. I hope that you'll be willing to give this game a try. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, give it a share, let people know. Feel free to comment in the comment section, either on the Facebook bit or on the YouTube video. Let me know if you want to see more. Let me know if there's anything you want to see done in particular. If there's any things you would have done differently, feel free to chuck them up there. I'm always happy to discuss things in the comments and in the videos. This will be going up via the Gamer Club Facebook. I'm a member of that, and it's been a while since we've done any major content on Gamer Club. But please, once again, there'll be a link in the description. Hop on there, give it a like, give it a share, get people more interested in it. We're always looking for more active community in the gaming, so let's go for it. As I've said, there will be notifications in the YouTube description for links to helpful sites, guides, and everything. There'll be Lord Hart, who is a contributor to the Game FAQs website. It was thanks to Lord Hart that I learned a lot about this game. Phenomenal guide. There's going to be Castle Gobs, which is again another great resource. There's going to be a link to OBS, which is the free recording software that I use. So if any of you want to try it, you can go for it. And there'll be a link to the Gamer Club on Facebook. And obviously this is going to be on my YouTube video as well. So like, share, comment, subscribe, any of that nonsense if you want to. And just remember, not every gamer is a Major League gamer. But everyone is welcome to be FLG.